What's up? I'm Dani, and this is Jacko from Bury Tomorrow, and you're watching PITCAM TV.
Hey guys, so tell me about the best show you ever went to as a fan.
Oh,
We'll start with Jacko,
That is a
because you're an idiot as always.
That's a difficult question.
that is.
You straight in there. It wasn't like, hi guys, how's it going?
Wow.
How's your day been? Oh, it's been quite good actually.
I wasn't prepared for that.
It's
at
just
all.
like, what's the show that you've been to? Tell me now.
You can just leave.
I will.
That's a really hard question. I'm gonna say I saw Every Time I Die once at a local venue to us called the Wedge of Dreams in Portsmouth. So it's like 400 people, and I went for them. And then I didn't really know much about the other bands on the package, and it just turned out that all of the bands were sick. I think it was It Dies Today, Protest the Hero, and a band called Exit 10 were opening. Who are
They're really good.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, it was just this insane bill. I went for Every Time I Die, and it ended up making, having like 3 new favourite bands out of the show. So that kind of sticks out for me. But I've been to a lot of amazing shows, so that is quite a difficult question.
Daniel?
Probably as like experience, probably Greenfields when we played and Limp Bizkit played as well, and that was like, and I think Ramstein was the time after, wasn't it? Ramstein was the second time. But in general, I would just say Greenfields as a festival. Like I would think if I lived in Switzerland or the surrounding areas, like it is an amazing festival to go to. It's got an amazing vibe to it as well, and one year we got to hang side stage with Limp Bizkit, and one year we got to watch In Flames from a top balcony, which was insane. And and then Ramstein played and absolutely tore it apart. So it was that festival as a whole for me is one of my favourite experiences as a live show full. So
Cool.
yeah, it was a serious answer.
Yeah, it really was. I wasn't expecting that from you. Okay, I'll give you an easier one. What's the best live experience you had as a band?
I'm gonna go probably Download.
I knew you would say that.
Yeah. Last year, main stage, I would say. The year before, when we did it first in the tent, was incredible as well. But I'll probably just go with main stage last year. Download for us was just kind of everything we hoped it would be and more, probably. It was just a great show.
Yeah, I'd kind of agree with that. Like playing in front of 35,000 people is always going to be a pretty 35 to 40,000 people is a pretty big experience for our band, and it was it's always, every time we play Download, it's kind of like a platform for us to do our headline tours at the end of the year, and culminating in that is the entire headline tour for me they're some of the best shows I've ever played in my life. So yeah, to even come out to Germany, and we're not overly big here, and still there's still 300 people here watching us, and London Coco, the last date of that UK tour was.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, it was 1,400 people sold out, so that was pretty.
That's probably a
pretty
joint top,
extensive,
to be fair, because that's headline show. It's like our show, that many people, that venue. That was super special, to be fair. So it's probably that and Download main stage. It's kind of two things that we might never get the chance to do either of those, and both of them went incredibly for us. So yeah, probably those two are joint first, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, next one. Who do you admire the most in the whole world?
In the whole world.
In the whole world. You can't go wrong with this one. The Architects guy said David Beckham. So.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Guys, you've done terribly.
I'll just go probably my parents then in that case. I think they're wicked. And if I can bring up my kids like they brought up me, I think I'll be pretty stoked. So I'll go with my parents.
Yeah, I'd probably go along those lines, stick with the family and that, but also the rest of the guys in the band. I wouldn't be in a band with people that I didn't admire and people that I didn't think could do it with us and with me, and I admire them for having strength of character and strength of perseverance to be able to go through some of the stuff that we've been through and come out the other side, and and in turn as well, on the flip side of that, have some of the best experiences that you could ever dream of as a person, let alone being a musician. We've seen some amazing sights, and I admire the guys for being able to stick through it to see it to the end.
Yeah. Favorite childhood memory?
Yeah, these are really hard.
God,
you said they were easy.
I know. I never said they were easy. I said they were random.
What's your favourite show?
Oh my God.
You need to be challenged more, Dani.
Yeah, I know, my brain has gone to
That's
this.
such an intense question.
Right. Favourite childhood memory? Go.
I honestly need to think about this. I'm not. Nothing springs to mind.
I don't really know. That is a bit. I can't remember last week, to be honest. It took me a long time to remember last week.
Favorite memory last week.
Well, the first day of this tour, I struggled to remember Hamburg. Like, I liked the show. I remember the show being sick, but people were talking to me about the venue, and I was like, what? Like, where you played there? And, but yeah, I mean, I suppose everything's on your mind. But favorite childhood memory, maybe. I don't know. When I first. Actually, it's quite emotional, but yeah. When I first took like out of the norm, like I used to go to France every year on holiday, and the first year we decided as a family to go elsewhere was to Gran Canaria, and it was actually my auntie was diagnosed with cancer about 6 months before, and then it came back, blah blah blah. But then we managed to get on their last holiday, and it was actually the last holiday I got to spend with my auntie, and you know, it was that for me to be able to have that time and have that, you know, that it's almost like the blissfully ignorant kind of feel about it. You know, it's an amazing holiday, and I was a kid, so you know, you don't really have that perception of life and death and all that kind of stuff. So childhood as a whole for me is something that I'd love to go back to, but you can't really go back to that because you now have a concept of money and life and all that kind of stuff. But that for me is one of those moments where you're so blissfully unaware of the severity of a situation, but you enjoy it, you know, and it was a really, really enjoyable moment for me, yeah.
Kind of along the same lines. I mean, the thing that sticks out probably now that Dan's mentioned it is we always used to go on holiday to the same place in Cornwall every year, and we probably did literally like the same thing for, I don't know, like 10 years running when I was a kid. Myself, my brother, sister, my mum and dad always used to go to Cornwall, always to my uncle's house that he had that was like on top of this cliff, basically just looking straight out to the ocean. And it was, I always remember it vividly because I've never really been in a house kind of like it since, where it was like upside down. So you'd go in and all the bedrooms and stuff were on the bottom floor. Then you'd go up the stairs and you'd have the kitchen, the living room up top, because from the living room was the view over the sea, and you couldn't see it from down below, so they just had these panoramic windows that just used to look out to the ocean, like as far as the eye can see. We did that every year for 10 years, and that's probably like, that does stick in my mind as, you know, a really strong childhood memory because I just did it for so long. But yeah.
All-time favorite album?
Fuck. Probably Slipknot Iowa. Like, I would say, you know, there's a million metalcore albums that I could list off now about, you know, what's influenced our band, but generally I remember Iowa coming out, and I remember it coming out on the same day as Toxicity by System of a Down. And I remember waiting because Dad bought it, and we waited outside HMV for it to come out and got the album. And I think for me it's just an amazing album. It's amazing to see a band that can still top the charts with abrasive and heavy music, and I think they were the first really, you know, you've got the big three that obviously are huge, Metallica, Pantera, Iron Maiden, those three that really do, Slayer obviously, but that top the charts, but it's not in the same way. And I think Slipknot took mainstream and really turned it on its head and turned the whole idea of you can't be in a big band and make heavy, abrasive, horrible music, and I think that's the best thing. That's what I associated with when I listened to Slipknot anyway.
I really don't know. I honestly would struggle to pick just one.
You can pick several.
Wow.
Or a band. Is that better?
It's so hard. I just, for me, like, I've never had that one particular band that's kind of, you know, that I can claim is kind of the reason essentially why I'm here. Like, I know, you know, Jace, for example, probably just picked Metallica straight away. Like, him and Dorse, that's a massive influence on them. But I kind of got into heavy music through softer bands, but at the same time I was never a massive fan of those. Like, for example, you know, started off Blink-182, that kind of thing, and progressed onwards. Then got into a bit of Funeral for a Friend. But I was never like such a huge fan that I keep going back to them, if you see what I mean. If for me, I'd probably say Funeral for a Friend as a band were the biggest influence on me when it came to, it was around the time that I started playing drums when I listened to that band off their very first EP, and then Casually Dressed and Deep in Conversation was a huge influence on myself and some of the other guys that were in this band at the time as to what we kind of thought we wanted to sound like, you know, that mix of heavy and melodic. And I certainly was very heavily influenced by their drummer Ryan at the time. He kind of, his way of playing almost shaped mine in some respects, I suppose. So
Let's just go with that.
we'll go with Funeral. But yeah, there's so many albums that are like, you know, important to me, so it's hard to just pick one.
Yeah. Okay. Favorite subject at school?
No, it's not overly hard.
That's better.
Yeah, I mean, I generally hated everything about school, education as a whole. I had good grades.
You're so smart.
Well, yeah, I had great grades, but I hated the whole establishment feel about school, and I have a problem with that kind of authority. I would assume when I was a kid anyway, and I don't know. I was quite sporty when I was younger. It's always been that way, that Dav wasn't the sporty one and I was always the sporty one. And yeah, I mean, I quite like PE. I was a massive fan of rugby when I was younger. I used to play rugby outside of school as well as extracurriculum. So, you know, PE was a big thing for me, but I also really like science. Like, I did applied science, and which is 3 instead of 2 awards in GCSE, which obviously the UK's grading. But yeah, I mean, I liked the science behind science. So it's like the risk assessments, and it's kind of like all the stuff that you'd assume is kind of boring, but I really enjoyed it. And, you know, I got to visit awesome places when I did it. So breweries and blood banks and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I really like, and I like medical science as well, because I've got a whole family of people my mum's a matron, and like I've got loads of like family members that are in medical side of things. So I quite like science as well. Yeah.
I would say history, probably. I used to really enjoy that at school, and then I went on to study Roman history, specifically in college, and got an A level in that. That was pretty cool. But yeah, I've always been interested in different aspects of history, really. So.
I'm like that with RE as well. I used to love RE. I was
That's such a random one.
I know.
Everyone hates that one.
No, I was a massive fan of RE. You know, I'm Christian, but I really like learning about multi-deity religions. I used to really like learning about that, and almost a mythology behind religion as well. And like obviously when you go back to like Saxon and all that kind of side of things, and the Viking religion and Greek and all that. But yeah, I was a fan of that as well. That was cool.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, the last one. It's gonna be a hard one again. If you could rule the world for like a week, what would be first on your agenda?
Because there's so many important things you should do,
Yeah.
and I'm just probably going to say something stupid.
I don't know. Maybe I'd probably get all the world leaders together and be like,
Have a good chat.
I'd be like, guys, come on. Like, at the end of the day, we all live on one planet, and personally, without going too far into it and all the politics about it, I just think the whole border system that we have when it comes to a worldwide community is just ridiculous and retarded. And I think at the end of the day, we should focus more about our planet as a whole, and the fact that we're all human beings, and it doesn't matter what race you are, it doesn't matter what sex you are, it doesn't matter what sexual orientation you have, it should not matter. We are all one community, and we should, you know, move forward with that in the future. And it's very hard to be like world peace and all that, because greed rules our world, you know, and it's a very misogynistic, it's a very, you know, racist, homophobic place, our world, and that's just the human nature. Unfortunately, we have that inbuilt in us. We are idiots, and we will create our own destruction at one point in our lifetime as beings. But generally, as I said, I would just get everyone down and go, look, we need to be more concerned about what our future as a whole, rather than our future in each individual pockets of trying to make as much money as possible and share the wealth as a whole. You know, forget immigrants and refugees and all those words, and just take care of people. You know, at the end of the day, there's people living on the streets when there's the basic thing is the richer people keep getting richer, and poorer people keep getting poorer, and that is just a ridiculous world. And to me, it's like when you look at people like David Beckham, and you look at people like, you know, Justin Bieber and people like that, is that they can walk into a car dealership and get handed a car, and that to me makes no sense, that someone would be outside that car dealership on the floor begging for money, you know. And that to me just it's just completely unfathomable.
Such a deep question, isn't it? Yeah, I think mine's kind of along the same lines. I mean, I think there's a lot of really bad stuff going on in certain places in the world at the moment. But I think at the same time, there's also a lot of, well, there's some stuff that gets documented about, and there's a lot of other things that doesn't really get documented about, and there's certain reasons for that. I don't want to go into it too much, but I think it would just be trying to like make the world a better place for everyone, I suppose. That it's such a mess right now, but I think at the same time, it's almost even more of a mess than a lot of people know about. So I think there's, we try and give our help to certain people right now, but I think there's also other people that really need some sort of intervention from other countries, and they're kind of just left to do their own thing. So yeah, I think it would just be to try and sort out everything, but it's a bit of a mess right now, isn't it? So that's not like it's not an easy fix, but yeah, I don't know.
What a bleak way to end an interview.
Well, yeah.
The world is done. We're all dead.
Not going well.
Sorry, guys. We are the world leaders, and we have completely screwed up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
My first one, Imagine when I was
We get more views if you take off your
16. Okay. I'm gonna be flexing the whole time. That's why I do. But yeah, okay, I'll take it off. Now my nipples are actually kind of too hairy right now, so I'm gonna leave it. But Imagine was my first one. I was 16, and I went to Little Rock, Arkansas, which is just like, a town way out in the boonies to get it done.